Welcome back to another episode of the NDE Files. Today we are going to talk about the absolutely mind-blowing tale of three polygamist sister wives, Sophia, Emily, and Ava, and their near-death experience and journey into the beyond. I have been sitting on today's story for a while. I didn't know how to approach it at first, but I think I finally cracked the nut for all of you. I just got off the phone with the wives, and they think I did it justice for all you new listeners. I'm Zoe, your favorite weirdo, and my mission is to be your guide and educator into the world of the supernatural. You see, ever since my own brush with the other side as a kid, life's been a series of questions that just keep piling up. I'm here to connect those dots, to decode the mysteries that have been following me around like a shadow. And hey, maybe you're tuning in because you're on a quest for answers too. Hopefully this proves therapeutic for us both, or at the very least you find it mildly entertaining. So if you're digging this cosmic journey, don't just be a passive traveler. Hit that subscribe button and drop a comment to show some love. Yes, you heard me right. Click that subscribe and spread the word, because my boss is starting to catch wind of this little project of mine. And let's just say he's not thrilled. My dream is to turn this passion into my full-time gig, and every subscribe and share gets me one step closer to that dream. So go ahead, make my day and maybe even change my life. All right, let's circle back to the story at hand. Today's episode unravels the emotional and spiritual roller coaster that three sister wives, Sophia, Emily, and Ava, endured. It is a journey so intense that their very lives hung in the balance. By the way, for those of you scratching your heads about the term sister wives, it refers to a polygamous arrangement where multiple women are married to the same man, often seen as a subculture within certain Mormon communities. If you're intrigued, there's a TLC show that dives into the daily lives of sister wives. And for those of you wanting a darker angle on this, a quick search on Warren Jeffs will give you some chilling insights. But I digress. A few months ago, it was brought to me by Tabitha Smith, one of the 35 children of the sister wives. Tabitha road tripped to me, and then I got to know her over coffee. She set up some deeply emotional Zoom meetings with the wives, and they told their story to me with tears streaming down their face. Now the time has come, and I can't wait to finally share. So fasten your cosmic seatbelts, because we're plunging headfirst into a tangled web of human complexities and inexplicable visions. As always, stay until the surprise is at the end. The story begins in Utah at a polygamist-friendly community. We zoom in on the three sister wives, Sophia, Emily, and Ava. The atmosphere at the farmhouse was thick with tension, so palpable it almost drowned out the hum of the refrigerator and the distant chirping of morning birds. Sophia, Emily, and Ava sat around the worn wooden kitchen table, each clutching a steaming mug of coffee as if it were a lifeline. The table was littered with remnants of breakfast: half-eaten toast, a nearly empty jar of jam, and bowls of untouched oatmeal, all of which had lost their appeal in the heavy silence. Their faces looked worn against the linoleum floor. No one spoke. Bitterness filled the air. Just then, the creaking of the floorboards announced Caleb's entrance. Caleb was their husband. He strolled into the kitchen, emanating his characteristic air of unwavering confidence. Dressed in a tailored suit, he casually swung a leather suitcase by his side, as if he were heading off on a vacation rather than leaving his wives in a cloud of uncertainty. Sophia, the intellectual of the trio, narrowed her hazel eyes as she processed Caleb's suggestion. Dressed in a simple yet elegant blouse and skirt, her brown hair was pulled back into a neat bun, revealing a face that often seemed lost in thought. She was the one who always had a book within arm's reach, her mind a repository of knowledge that she wished was valued as much as Emily's beauty or Ava's spirituality. Emily, sitting to Sophia's left, looked up from her coffee, her ocean blue eyes meeting Sophia's gaze. Emily was the embodiment of classical beauty, with golden locks that framed a face adorned with just the right touch of makeup. Her style was undeniably feminine, often opting for dresses that accentuated her figure, a stark contrast to Sophia's more conservative attire. She was the one who captured immediate attention when she walked into a room, but often felt that people underestimated her intelligence because of her beauty. Across from them sat Ava, her own eyes a deep shade of green that often looked like they were peering into another realm. Dressed in a flowing bohemian skirt and a loose-fitting blouse adorned with intricate patterns, her red hair was a cascade of loose curls, that framed a face often lost in daydreams or meditation. Ava was the spiritual compass of the family, the one who could read the energy of a room the moment she stepped into it. Breaking the silence, Sophia set her mug down and locked eyes with him. "Caleb," she began, her voice tinged with a blend of curiosity and apprehension. "Where are you going with that suitcase?" With a sly grin that didn't quite reach his eyes, Caleb responded, "Business trip, darling. But I think it's a golden opportunity for you three to spend some quality time together. With the kids gone away at the work farm, I think it is a good time for all you to work out some of your sister-wife issues." You see, he knew the women hated each other, and nothing gave him more pleasure than making them uncomfortable and stirring the pot. He relished that they all fought. The silence lingered just a moment too long, heavy with the unspoken words and buried resentments that had come to define their complex relationships. Finally, Sophia turned back to Caleb, her voice steady, yet tinged with an emotion she couldn't quite mask. "All right, a hike it is." And so, the stage was set for a day that none of them could have anticipated, a day that would force them to confront not just the wilderness, but the tangled wilderness of their own hearts and souls. As they reached the trailhead, Caleb pulled over in their old SUV, its engine idling with a low rumble that seemed almost impatient. He turned to them with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "I've packed enough food for you all. Sandwiches, fruits, and some granola bars. Your cell phones are fully charged too. Not that you'll need them out here." Before any of them could respond, he shifted the car into gear and sped off, leaving a cloud of dust in his wake. The particles hung in the air for a moment, like fine mist, before settling back onto the road, as if the very earth was trying to erase the trace of his departure. The three women stood there, watching as the car became a small dot in the distance, its departure echoing the emotional distance that had grown between them and Caleb over the years. In that moment, as the dust settled and the sound of the engine faded into the quiet of the forest, they felt a mixture of relief and apprehension. Relief that Caleb was gone, even if just for a day, and apprehension about the emotional journey that lay ahead, a journey that seemed almost as unpredictable as the winding trail before them. As the dust from Caleb's hasty departure settled, the three women found themselves standing at the trailhead, the expansive desert stretching before them. The horizon seemed to blur into a haze where the golden sands met the stark blue sky. Sophia adjusted her sunglasses and scanned the sparse trail markers, her eyes following the faint path that seemed to weave through dunes and around cacti. Emily took a moment to apply another layer of sunscreen, ensuring her skin would maintain its porcelain beauty. Ava, on the other hand, adjusted her wide-brimmed hat and took a deep breath, absorbing the raw energy of the desert. Ava's voice, breaking through the stifling stillness, hinted at a mix of resignation and determination. "Well, let's get this over with." The desert, in its vast open splendor, was both intimidating and mesmerizing. Rolling sand dunes, shaped by the whims of the wind, rose and fell like the waves of a golden ocean. Scattered cacti stood tall, their thorny arms raised to the heavens as if in silent supplication. Every so often, a lizard would scuttle across their path, its rapid movements a stark contrast to the timeless stillness of its surroundings. But this serene landscape also held subtle reminders of its unforgiving nature. The sun bore down relentlessly, and every step they took kicked up fine sand that found its way into their shoes, a gritty discomfort they couldn't escape. Sophia led the way, her practical mind noting each trail marker and mentally cataloging the different cacti species. But what irked Emily and Ava the most about Sophia was her incessant need to share every tidbit of knowledge. "Did you know?" she'd often start, prompting silent groans from the others. Emily, with her designer sunglasses and her penchant for taking selfies at every photogenic spot, was next. Sophia and Ava often shared exasperated glances at Emily's obsession with capturing the perfect shot, especially when it meant taking unnecessary detours or pauses. "Wait, just one more," she'd often exclaim, holding up her phone at yet another angle. Ava trailed behind, her steps deliberate and thoughtful. She often paused, her fingers brushing against a cactus or picking up a uniquely shaped stone. Her spiritual connection to the landscape was evident, but her habit of murmuring little prayers or chants under her breath was something that both Sophia and Emily found disconcerting, if not a tad eerie. The deeper they ventured into the desert, the more the vastness and isolation seemed to amplify their individual quirks, turning minor annoyances into glaring issues. The desert, with its silent majesty, became a backdrop to the simmering tensions and long-held grievances that threatened to boil over at any moment. The tension between them had been building like a powder keg, each petty annoyance and biting remark another spark near the fuse. Finally, in the blistering heat of the desert, it detonated. Sophia, already frazzled and on edge, pulled out her phone with a flicker of hope, only to see her battery flatlining at 1%. Her eyes widened in disbelief as she turned to Emily and Ava, her voice cracking with both desperation and indignation. "I think we're lost. And guess what? Caleb didn't charge our phones. What are we going to do?" Emily snorted, rolling her eyes dramatically. "Oh, fabulous. The smart one leads us into the middle of nowhere. And now we find out her loving husband can't even do a simple task. Face it, we are lost. Maybe you can recite some Shakespeare to guide us back, huh?" Ava, who had been quietly simmering, couldn't hold back any longer. "Oh, please, Emily, like your vanity selfies would have saved us. And stop pretending like you're any less responsible for this mess," Sophia exploded, her emotions boiling over. "You're one to talk, Ava. What's the plan? Summon a spirit guide to lead us back?" Emily sneered. "Or maybe Sophia can think us out of this predicament. Oh wait, she's the reason we're in it." Just then, Ava unzipped her backpack and frantically searched for the food Caleb had promised. Her face flushed with a mixture of anger and despair as she found it empty. "He didn't pack the food. We have nothing." At that very instant, as if the desert itself had judged them and found them wanting, a ferocious gust of wind roared through the barren landscape. Sand swirled around them in a blinding, choking cloud, as if the earth was rebelling against their pettiness. For a few seconds that felt like an eternity, each woman was isolated in her own swirling vortex of sand and regret. It was a harsh, humbling mirror, forcing them to confront not just their dire situation, but their own ugly contributions to it. When the sandstorm passed and they could see each other again, their faces were streaked with dirt, but also with a new, unsettling clarity. Their eyes met, but this time, the cattiness was replaced by a raw, unspoken understanding. They were each other's only hope for survival, and their petty disputes had brought them to the brink of disaster. Now, faced with the unforgiving reality of a desert that didn't care about their grievances, they had a choice: continue tearing each other apart, or find a way to navigate this perilous, life-threatening situation, because they were lost, really lost. It was a moment of truth, wrapped in layers of irony and urgency, and none of them would ever be the same. As the malevolent sky deepened into an abyss of darkness, moonlight casting a ghostly pallor over their faces, the women huddled together on the unforgiving, cold desert floor. Shivering uncontrollably, Sophia broke the silence, her voice a haunting whisper that seemed to echo in the emptiness. "We should ration our supplies." Emily's eyes ignited, ablaze with a mix of derision and despair. "Ration what, Sophia? Our abundant supply of air? Groundbreaking, really. You continue to outdo yourself in brilliance." Ava, her spirit nearly crushed by the weight of their collective failures, sighed, a sound so heavy it seemed to pull at the very air around them. "Enough. We are all that we have. If we don't focus, we're signing our own death warrants." It was clear they were going to die. They wouldn't make it to the next sundown. But then, in the depths of that merciless night, something extraordinary happened. Sophia was pulled from her restless sleep by a vision so vivid, it was as if the universe itself had painted it just for her. A sparkling stream with water so crystal clear it resembled liquid diamonds. She gasped awake, her eyes wide with a mixture of awe and disbelief. "I saw it. I saw water, a life-giving stream in this hellish landscape." As if guided by some cosmic synchronicity, Emily too was visited by a vision. In her dream, she stood before a mountain peak, radiant in the first light of dawn, as if beckoning them toward salvation. "I saw a mountain. It was like a beacon guiding us out of this forsaken place." And Ava, the spiritual anchor of the trio, closed her eyes and slipped into a deep meditative state. She saw a field, each wildflower glowing like a tiny galaxy, and in the distance, the hum of a car engine. Her eyes snapped open, radiant with an otherworldly light. I saw a field of ethereal wildflowers and heard the distant promise of civilization. A car. In that charged moment, something seismic shifted among them. Their eyes met, no longer clouded by the fog of petty disputes and grievances. Instead, they were filled with a new, electrifying realization that these visions, surreal as they were, could be the cosmic lifelines they so desperately needed. Was this their last chance at redemption? A celestial guidebook to navigate their way out of this desert purgatory? Clearly, a higher power was looking out for them, guiding them back from the brink of death. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, hope surged through them, invigorating their weary souls. They knew then that their only way out was to trust in these visions and in each other. It was a moment of reckoning, a dramatic pause in the narrative of their lives, and none of them would ever be the same again. Sophia, her eyes narrowing as if trying to pierce through the veil of reality itself, finally broke the charged silence. Could these visions actually be signs? Are we being offered a cryptic roadmap to salvation? Ava nodded, her face glowing with a spiritual intensity that seemed to light up the darkening desert around them. When we're at our weakest, that's often when the universe leans in to whisper secrets into our ears. We should heed these messages. They might be our only chance at survival. Emily, usually the hardened cynic of the group, looked from Sophia to Ava, and then back at the endless desert that had been their unforgiving host. Well, at this point, what have we got to lose? Let's follow these visions. It's not like sitting here is getting us anywhere. So, they set out again, each step heavy with both dread and anticipation. Sophia led, her eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of her elusive stream. Emily walked with renewed purpose, her gaze lifting periodically to the distant mountain peaks, searching for the one that had visited her in her dream. And Ava, bringing up the rear, seemed to move in a rhythm only she could hear, as if each step was guided by the ethereal energy of her vision of the field. Finally, as the first rays of dawn painted the sky in hues of pink and orange, they stumbled upon a road. Civilization at last. A wave of overwhelming relief washed over them, as palpable as a physical embrace. They flagged down a passing car, and as they climbed in, each knew they were leaving behind not just the desert, but old versions of themselves. Just when they thought they had reached the safety of their home, a new kind of horror awaited them. There was Caleb, can you believe it? Sitting on their plush living room couch, laughing and sharing a glass of wine with a new woman. A stranger in their sanctuary. He wasn't looking for them. He wasn't worried about them being lost. It was clear he had hardly even noticed they were gone. Sophia's eyes narrowed, her fists clenched so tightly they turned white. For a split second, she felt an old surge of rage boiling up, a storm ready to erupt. But then she looked over at Emily and Ava, and something incredible happened. Their eyes locked, and in that charged moment, an unspoken pact was formed. Caleb had no more power here. The twisted game he had always played was over. With a grace and unity they had never displayed before, the three women walked into the room. Sophia, with a calm she never knew she had, took the wine bottle from the table and poured herself a glass, her eyes never leaving Caleb's startled face. Emily, ignoring the new woman completely, turned on the TV to a nature documentary, a small but meaningful act that reclaimed their living space. Ava lit a scented candle on the mantelpiece, the same one they had never lit because Caleb hated the smell. Sophia, Emily, Ava. Who is this? Caleb stammered, clearly rattled by their unexpected unity, and trying to pretend like he didn't know the woman who he was canoodling on the couch with. That's a question you should be asking yourself, Caleb, Sophia replied, her voice icy but steady. But the more important question is, who are we to each other? She turned to Emily and Ava, and they huddled in, whispering and laughing, sharing a closeness Caleb had never been part of. It was as if a protective shield had formed around them, a sisterly bond fortified by their harrowing experience and newfound respect for each other. Caleb looked from one face to the other, and for the first time, he seemed to realize that he was the outsider, the one who had lost everything. So, cosmic explorers, What we have here is not just a tale of survival against the odds, or even a story of spiritual visions and cosmic messages. No, this is a saga of transformation. A journey from animosity to sisterhood, from being pawns in a manipulative game to becoming queens of their own destiny. If this electrifying story sent shivers down your spine, or made you reevaluate your own relationships and alliances, don't forget to hammer that like button and share this groundbreaking episode with your entire social network. Until we meet again, stay curious, stay empowered, and above all, stay cosmic.